Weapon builds might just be the key to understanding Doom the Dark Ages, but what does a build even look like in a Doom game? In my last video, I introduced builds as a sort of mindset, a way of thinking strategically about your gear, your playstyle, and how it all fits together. Concepts seem to really resonate with people, so today we're diving deeper. I've put together a dedicated build for nearly every weapon in the game, with one exception, the Pulverizer. I gave it a fair shot, but I couldn't find a setup that felt cohesive or worth recommending. But before we dive into each build, I think it's important to address the following questions. What exactly is a weapon build? How does it work in the Dark Ages? And more importantly, does the game really support that kind of play? To answer the first question, a weapon build is simply a synergistic combination of a weapon, a melee, and a shield room, with the weapon itself serving as the anchor of the setup and the rest of your gear being there to support it. Since every weapon in the game comes with its own strengths and weaknesses, finding the right combination of runes and melees can help you amplify what a weapon does best or compensate for what it lacks. This can create dynamic and unique playstyles for almost any weapon in the game. Just pick your favorite gun, find out what makes it tick, and use your equipment to design a build that complements its features. On paper, this concept sounds pretty exciting, but does the game's combat loop really support this build-oriented approach? In many ways, yes, and I'll get to why I put an asterisk on it. In the Dark Ages, constant weapon swapping is not really a part of the core loop, at least not like it was in the last two Doom games. In fact, if done too often or at the wrong time, the game could punish you for it. And because of how generous the Dark Ages is with ammo, even on the lowest resource setting, you just won't find yourself being forced to swap very often. This is what makes sticking with one gun a very viable option. As long as you play to a weapon's strengths and design your gear to support its unique qualities, you can go all in on a single gun. But here's the thing. Not all weapons are created equal. Within the context of the right setup, weapons can be made more versatile, but some are just better at dealing with certain scenarios than others. For example, against most melee brawler type demons, the super shotgun will yield better results than something like the rocket launcher. The super shotgun thrives in those close quarter encounters, where the rocket launcher is almost a liability due to the splash damage. Even with the cannibalism upgrade, it's not very clear whether or not the effect is active, turning the fight into an awkward guessing game. And this is only one example. So while constant quick swapping is not necessarily encouraged, neither is the complete absence of weapon variety. So just keep this in mind as you're ripping and tearing with your favorite weapon. With that being said, let's get to what everyone's here for, the builds. Some of these builds lean into more experimental setups, while others are more clearly tuned for raw power. Either way, there's something here for just about every kind of player, whether you're chasing the most broken loadouts or just looking to try something a bit more off meta. I've left chapters down below, so those of you who have already seen the builds from my last video can skip through to the new ones. Kicking things off with build number 1, we have the Combat Shotgun, Dread Mace, and Heaven Splitter. The Combat Shotgun is one of the lower rated weapons in the game, but it's clear why so many people think it's weak. Despite being a useful source of armor, the Combat Shotgun often isn't powerful enough to justify its use. Even with the triple shot upgrade, you'll just find yourself running out of ammo very quickly. But here is where the Dread Mace comes into play. Despite its long cooldown, a single use of the Dread Mace will be enough to replenish all of your ammo. It can also help you burst down those larger demons that the Combat Shotgun typically struggles to take on. But what happens if you run out of shells while the Dread Mace is still on cooldown? Well, with the addition of the Heaven Splitter and its damage amplifying shock effect, you can make each shotgun blast count for twice as much. This synergy allows you to make the most out of your ammunition while giving you time to recharge your Dread Mace, turning your flaming shotgun pellets into an unlimited source of armor. Within the context of this build, the Combat Shotgun is not to be slept on. Coming in at build number 2, we got the Super Shotgun, Empowered Gauntlets, and Ground Fisher. While the Super Shotgun is considered one of the strongest weapons in the game, it does have a few downsides. Its most glaring flaws include its range, fire rate, and ammo efficiency. With the Empowered Gauntlets, we can weave in melee strikes between shotgun blasts, keeping the SSG loaded and covering the downtime between each shot. With our first melee strike, we can also apply Shock to soften up anything that doesn't die to a single blast. With the Ground Fisher rune, we can stun demons long enough for us to enter the SSG's effective range, while collecting much needed armor pickups. Overall, this build is definitely tailored towards a more brawly experience, getting face to face with demons and comboing shotgun blasts with your melee strikes and shield bashes. If you've really been enjoying the Dark Ages' emphasis on brutal melee combat, this is the build for you. For build number 3, we have the Ravager, Flail, and Auto Turret. On its own, this weapon is already a self-sustaining machine. At maximum fire rate, any demons damaged by the Ravager will drop health pickups, and when fully upgraded, drop Skull Crusher ammo as well. By throwing the Flail into the mix, we can fully realize the Ravager's loot farming identity. The Flail will also help you break down demon armor, leaving them vulnerable to the meat mincing duo that is the Ravager and the Auto Turret. With the Auto Turret equipped, every other parry will result in an endless supply of health drops, while helping you melt everything in your path. Pure, unchained carnage. This build is all about shredding demons non-stop while farming a gluttonous amount of health, armor, and ammunition. Taking up the 4th spot, we have the Cycler, Flail, and Ethereal Daggers. Like the Ravager, this build is going to be focused on the Cycler's fast-paced run-and-gun playstyle. On its own, the Cycler offers a steady source of DPS, with chain lightning, a massive ammo pool, and the ability to apply shock. But where the weapon falls short is in burst damage. The ethereal daggers cover this weakness perfectly. They hit fast, and especially when paired with the Cycler's shock, can deal a ridiculous amount of damage, deleting everything that's on your screen. To establish a source of armor within this build and increase our survivability, we can use the flail. Its armor breaking effect will also help us soften up enemies so we can beam them down with the Cycler. The late and great Doom tuber Rogwell described this build best with these 3 words: fast, efficient, and built to keep moving. Rest in peace, kid. Build number 5 is going to be very similar to the last one, with the Accelerator, Flail, and Heaven Splitter. Here, the Flail serves the same purpose it did with the Cycler. Plasma weapons in general take the longest to heat up demon armor, so the Flail can help us break it down quicker while providing us with some armor of our own. Compared to the Cycler, the Accelerator technically has more DPS, but it doesn't apply shock like the Cycler would. We can bring this effect back into our kit with the Heaven Splitter rune, dramatically increasing our overall DPS while stunning all surrounding demons. Locking demons into place will also make it much easier to land uncontested flail strikes when trying to break demon armor off big threats like vagaries, or as Mayo likes to say, the Varigays.
Multiple charge rockets on a Varigay will take him down quickly.
This build is basically an inversion of the last one. I mean, the weapons are nearly identical. But I would say that this one plays at a bit of a slower pace and leans on frequent use of melee strikes a bit more. For build number 6, we have the Rocket Launcher, Dread Mace, and Auto Turret. As we mentioned earlier, the Rocket Launcher struggles with those brawler type demons that require you to fight them uncomfortably close. Even with the Cannibalism upgrade, it's hard to tell whether or not the next rocket will deal damage to you. Because of this, I mistakenly disregarded the rocket as being too situational, but this is where we could use the Dread Mace to help us deal with those pesky melee demons. By taking advantage of the Dread Mace Riposte upgrade, we can very quickly deal with enemies like the Cyber Demon, Agadon Hunters, and Cosmic Barons. Here's where this build gets really fun though. By equipping the auto turret, we can lean hard into the rocket launcher's self-healing capabilities. After pairing a projectile, you can dive bomb even the biggest demons with a shield bash and start laying down rockets at point blank range. With both the auto turret and cannibalism healing you, you're practically invincible, all while dealing a ridiculous amount of damage. It's important not to get too carried away with this though. You can absolutely get bursted down if you're not being careful. So just make sure you're still blocking those projectiles and timing those parries. Proceed with caution, you've been warned. For build number 7, I went with something a bit more experimental. Here we're using the Shredder, Empowered Gauntlets, and Ground Fisher. On the surface, the Shredder is somewhat of an underwhelming weapon, but when paired with this equipment, it can develop an interesting playstyle of its own. By pairing it with the Empowered Gauntlets, we can shock demons with our first melee strike to boost our single target DPS. This synergy is especially effective when combined with the Pincushion upgrade. Shocking a demon before detonating the Pincushion delivers a supercharged, instantaneous burst of damage, something the Shredder typically lacks on its own. So it becomes a game of tempo between these two status effects, knowing how many rounds it takes to apply the Pincushion, timing your melee strike, and finally tossing your shield for big damage. For our shield rune, I've opted for the Ground Fisher, to establish a source of armor, and for its ability to falter a demon. But the main dynamic with this build lies between the Empowered Gauntlet shock and the Shredder's Pincushion. It may not be a very intuitive playstyle, for me at least, and it certainly plays at a more patient pace than what I'm used to, but I could see this being a playstyle that resonates with some people. Once you've got the timings down, it can be very satisfying to pull these combos off. Up next we got build number 8, and honestly this one carried me through half the campaign. For this build we're going to be using the Impaler, Dread Mace, and Heaven Splitter. With the Stalwart upgrade purchase, every shield bash or shield throw will grant you free Impaler ammo. Combine this with the Salvage upgrade, and as long as you're throwing your shield between Impaler shots, almost every rail you fire will be empowered. On its own this is already very strong, but we can take it even further with the Lobotomy upgrade. Every headshot we land will charge our melee ammo quicker, meaning we can turn the slow charging Dread Mace into a frequent source of insane burst damage. You can top this off with the Heaven Splitter, locking all demons into place for easy headshots and stacking damage boost on top of damage boost to instantly delete demons. This is probably the most broken setup in the entire game. Whether it be firing the Impaler, swinging the Dread Mace, or throwing and instantly recalling the shield, there is always something to do with this build, with very little downtime between each action. This is definitely a personal favorite of mine. Build number 9 is a bit of a wild card. Here we have the Grenade Launcher, Empowered Gauntlets, and Auto Turret, all of which I've seen the internet disregard as some of the least effective tools in the game. But together they make for a pretty fun and powerful build. The weapon itself deals so much damage, all in a wide area of effect as well, that I didn't find the need for the Dread Mace's insane burst damage or the Flail's armor breaking ability. On top of this thing just doesn't really run out of ammo, so I just went with the Empowered Gauntlets because beating stuff up is fun. Seriously though, the Grenade Launcher isn't totally immune to running out of ammo, so the Gauntlet's frequent melee strikes makes it really easy to stay loaded without putting too much thought into it. The role of the Auto Turret here is to make up any health you may have lost from loose grenades. These things can bounce around pretty erratically, so you're bound to take some damage here and there, especially when you're going for empowered melee strikes. This one can play pretty similarly to the rocket launcher build. After parrying a projectile, you can kinda do whatever you want with all the bonus health you get from the turret. It's chaotic, but fun. Finally, closing things out with build number 10, we have the Chainshot, Dread Mace, and once again, the auto turret. This weapon is very powerful as is, but there are a few tweaks we can make to our equipment to make it even stronger. On its own, the Chainshot has no issue with ammo consumption, so we can use the Dread Mace to add more burst damage to the build without needing to rely on frequent melee strikes to replenish ammo. On top of this, stuff just dies so fast with this weapon that there's almost never a reason to combo your shots with multiple empowered punches or flail swings. You can just kinda shoot stuff and it dies, so you might as well go big with the Dread Mace. With the auto turret equipped, we can make our damage output more continuous. The Chainshot fires in slow, periodic bursts, so having the auto turret apply a consistent stream of damage can fill in the empty spaces between each shot. The Dread Mace and the Eldritch Blessing upgrade make this build especially powerful against large melee demons, as every parry can be met with a fully charged Chainshot or 2 swings of the mace. With solid splash damage, insane burst potential, and the added health drops from the auto turret, this is definitely one of the strongest builds in the game. That was a lot of builds to get through, but we finally made it to the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed the concept we talked about in this video, consider leaving a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Let me know in the comments, do you think builds are actually a viable way of approaching the game's combat, or are they kind of a gimmick? Feel free to share your favorite builds in the comments below, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Rip and tear.